So it's that time again. Right, this time we're actually building a server, but it's a media server, and it's going to be running on Windows 10, not proper server software. That's going to be on the solid state drives, but this server is going to have RGBs in it, and it's going to have a CryoRig R1 CPU air cooler, because that's got to be matched up with a 3820 processor. So I'm using some of these old components that I've got. So I've got old school X79 EVGA SLI motherboard, and then obviously a 3820 CPU, which is quad core processor and has 8 threads, and it's got the hyper threading and all that sort of stuff. Not too much as the new generation of 2017, but it's enough, easily enough for a server to go back and forwards with all the storage information, using remote access and all that sort of stuff, and checking the files, say audio files, because it's going to have audio files, video files, animation files, photography files, and anything to do with drawings and stuff like illustration and Photoshop and stuff like that. It's going to be able to check on the server and remote access as well, so that's why we're using that. But also, as you know, it's an X79 SLI motherboard. It needs to have a dedicated graphics card, so the graphics card we're going to be using is this one, and it's a Radeon HD 6850. Now this is old school graphics card, but the graphics card, I've had to clean it out of the system, so I'm using graphics card, solid state drive. The RAM as well is going to be HyperX. Now this is quite some old RAM, this is DDR3. I think it's like 16 gigs or maybe 8 gigs of RAM, which is just enough anyway. And I've got to clean it all out and everything like that. And the hard drive that I'm using is obviously Seagate 16 terabytes. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but they sent over 16 terabytes for this storage build and everything like that. I'm using a 400 watt Silverstone power supply, and all I have to do is say now, sorry Antec, we're not using your case. We're not going to be using your case. It's done us justice for years and everything like that. But now we're going to move on to the GX1200 Antec case and your little rainbow fans to go in there, because this is a little miniature, well not miniature, it's a medium towers computer is going to be complemented with RGBs and LEDs inside this case, because I know out there how many of you like RGBs and LEDs. You'll go mad for it, wouldn't you? But anyway, so I'm going to be using that, and then obviously it's solid state to boot up and have like quick access and drop information on really quickly, or the terabytes to drop on big storage information on. So this is what we're going to do. We're just going to get on it and build it right now, and basically it's just a few old components that are really still quite decent to this day in 2017, and complemented with some new stuff. So new case, 16 terabytes of hard drive storage, R1 CryoRig's CPU air cooler, Silverstone power supply, 400 watts, RGB fans, and the GX1200 case. So yes, let's get on and let's build this little beast. So I had to change the R1 CryoRig CPU air cooler because it was too big. It was actually hitting this old generation RAM. Now these days the RAM is a lot more slimmer in height and stuff like that, and it's just easier to put in RAM slots. Plus the motherboards, RAM slots are slightly wider and stuff like that. But I've gone with the next one that I had, which was a H5 Universal, and it fits perfectly. So I'm just going to swap that over and go with that one. So I'm losing another fan, but I'm not running at a really high TDP. Well, I am actually on the CPU, it's 130 TDP, but it should be okay because it's for 2011 version 3. And this is a version 2 or 1 or something like that, X79, so I think it might be version 1 or 2, so yeah. Anyway, let me just put the RAM back in there and let's get on with the build. bit let down with this case. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's something that I feel is a high Antec generation case like it used to be. Like even my old school one's got a lot more metal to it, a lot more aluminium, a lot more plastic to it. It's a lot more stronger, more durable. This is more of a very like cheaper base case. It's lighter, I understand that, but I can't even get the top off because I can't find anything about the instructions to get the top off. So if I was going to water cool this would be very hard to do. It's got the box on the side, which is to switch like the fans, and it's got the buttons as well, so you can use the fans in other cases. And it's got places to put the SSD. I actually went for this case because of the LED RGB, because it's LEDs because it's not full RGB. Full RGB goes through the full rainbow spectrum, and then you can kind of mix the colours together. I just feel that I've had every single case from Antec for years and they've always been on top, but this case is a bit of a letdown for what I would call as an enthusiast case. I feel that enthusiasts would get upset because there's no real option to do things, and it is connected by loads of pop rivets as well. So for the extreme enthusiast, as well as a water cooler or a custom AIO, yeah, you can do AIO, but only in 2 positions. But yeah, I'm gonna put it all together and see how it comes out and give you my final thoughts of it. I like how you get like these little pouches, and it's got an Antec logo on there, and it's all pretty nicely labelled as well. So SSD screws, and then you've got power screws, and then you've got hard screws. So I guess that's for the hard drive. You've got a few cable ties. They could actually put Velcro ties in there, but they've given you the very flimsy, annoying ones. If you type the wrong cable, you're gonna have to cut it, and you ain't gonna have no cable ties. You have to go back to using the packaging with the wire ties for when you get the Velcro ties to make your build look nice. So it's got a few more standoffs, a few more screws and stuff. Yeah, so I like some of the packaging, but even the instructions, they look I don't know. I'm just not feeling instructions. It's not really telling me anything that I need to know. If you're a beginner, you would find like the instructions layouts quite nice. But when you actually try to put something away, like an AIO in the top of the case, you're going to find it hard because it doesn't tell you how to do that. You have to learn how to do it yourself. Yeah, I'm just going to have to just build in it and just let you know my thoughts afterwards. That's what I'm going to do. So there's a few things I do like about this case, and there's a few things I don't like about this case. Now, should we start off with what I don't like about the case? I don't like the fact that you've got the A on top as the power button, and all it does is cycle through red LED, and it flashes LED to show that it's flashing synced with the LED fans that are inside the case. So basically, when I go to cycle like yellow, green, purple, pink or anything like that, it doesn't come up on the actual button, but it comes up with the box that you're not going to see because the side panel is completely shut off. So you can't see it. So you've got to take the side panel off to actually control the fans as well. So you've got 3 settings. You can have the fans off, fans on like sort of medium to low, and then hot, really like full power, high. And yeah. That's a bit awkward, taking the side panel off and everything like that. There's not a lot of room for cable management, especially for a power supply. I put a really small power supply in there, so I put a Silverstone 400 watt power supply in there, and the cables are not modular, but it just shows that if you've got a budget and you're paying for a budget case, you want to obviously buy budget stuff and you want it to all fit. So that's what I've gone with. I've gone with stuff that I've already got to place in from an old case into a new case, and then use like a power supply and other stuff to go in there. Now the CPU air cooler, my god, it's not even a half a millimeter away from the actual front of the panel. It is going to actually touch the panel, and as this is acrylic, it might scratch it if you have to keep putting it and putting it back in, putting it and putting it back in, because you want to keep like moving stuff around inside the case. So I don't like that. I don't like where some of the grommet holes are meant to be, even though it hasn't got any grommets, but the grommet holes or the pass-throughs for the cables, I find it hard to make nice cable management out of a budget case at £65 to £70 sort of like budget area. It's more the top area of budget, not like cheap budget. But things I do like about the case, I like that it's got rainbow fans. You can cycle through it. It's got the flashing on and off, and it cycles through the colours. I think it cycles through about 7 to 9 colours. I think so. It's got pink, purple, blue, green, red and yellow, and it hasn't got orange or anything like that. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I do like that you can get the top off eventually. You have to pull the front top off, and then the front panel first, and then the top off. But I had trouble getting the EPS connector in, but all I needed to do is take the top panel off, and I had all that clearance to get many well, you could have 2 hands going in there. Even if you've got small, big hands, you'll be able to get the EPS connector into the top of the motherboard, which makes light work. So I like that. I like the back as well, where you can put another exhaust fan on there. You can't put 140, but you can put 120 on there, but you can got a slight centimetre that you can go up a little bit, or a slight centimetre down, depending on what you're doing. So if you're going to go with push and pull configuration, it's not going to work on the back here with the 120 rad. It will work with just a rad on the back. You can put a 240 at the top here, and you can also place a 240 to a 360 at the front there, but it's going to be very awkward to make it look really nice with the cable management and stuff like that. It's placed on the stroud as well, that you've got a fan, and you can either push air into the actual power supply unit, but not really, because technically if you're using an old school power supply, the power supply will be rotating around all the time. But if you're using like the newer power supplies, they hardly turn on, and they hardly use that much power unless you're overclocking or you're working and it's not idling anymore. So I don't know, like having the fan upwards could actually be a good potential for the graphics card in there if you're going to put a big graphics card. But if you're going to be spending money on the components inside here, then I would look away and not bother with this case and go with Antec's other versions of cases, because this one I'm not really proud of to say that it's an enthusiast and a total water cooling thing. I wouldn't even say this is very good for an amateur person, because they'll find it hard for where the cables could reach. Now I was using obviously a budget power supply, and I tried to get the EPS connector from the front so it looked more tidier, to get it into, no, not the EPS connector, the actual HD audio connector from. You can have it so it shows the cables, which look awkward, or you can have it so it doesn't. But when you do that, you're not going to be able to get it in the motherboard unless you check on your motherboard that the HD audio that you want to use from the front panel is down a little bit low on the motherboard, because my one was near the graphics card, and it's just awkward. But this is an older graphics card, the motherboard components that I got in there. So if it was using it with more of a up-to-date 2016, 2017 motherboard and graphics card, maybe it would be alright. You'd be able to connect the headers and stuff pretty nicely, but yeah, other than that, I can't really say much about it. It's got a dust sort of filter at the top, which you have to wipe, and I think it's got a dust, yeah, it's got a little dust filter at the bottom of the power supply, and it's got a dust filter in the front and the panel. It's like a triangle. It's a little bit awkward, but it's a budget case, and that's the way it is. And to be honest with you, I can't say much more than that, other than if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If not, dislike it, leave a comment. Subscribe now if you like this sort of content, you want to keep up to date with loads of content. Links in the description down below where to purchase this case and the fans as well, and some of the components that I've used other than the X79 motherboard and the graphics card, because they're discontinued, so can't get that. So I'll put a different generation or something similar in the bottom and a similar price point. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one.